Hi Magi's gang, my name is Majojiba, Maji for short. If you're new here, you're welcome to my channel. Consider subscribing by clicking on that red subscribe button located below. And if you're a returning subscriber, as always, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you here with me. I hope everyone's having a good week so far and you are not letting anyone or anything dim your light. So rumor has it that some of you are actually interested in knowing how to go about buying your first car in Australia as a new immigrant, as an international student, or as a foreigner in general. Shout out to Tomiwa for requesting this video. In this video, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about buying your first car. Not even about buying your first car, about successfully buying your first car in Australia as a new immigrant, as an international student, or as a foreigner in general. So if you're interested in knowing what these things are, watch till the end though. Don't say I didn't tell you. Okay, so let's be realistic. Majority of foreigners or newcomers to Australia do not have Maserati money. So you're probably looking to buy a less expensive car, like a used car. Of course, a fairly used car, not a car that has been abused by its previous owner or owners. So there are two basic ways you can perform your search for a car. These two ways initially start off online and then progress to in-store. So the first on my list, of course, is a Google search. So if you search in Google, used car lots near me, this should generally bring up a variety of shops around your area. And most of these shops would also have websites. So you could click on their websites and have a look at the cars which are available. Alternatively, you could note down their business hours and pay a visit to the store in person and look at the cars physically. So the second is car websites. Now there are several car websites in Australia which you could go to purchase cars. However, the two most popular ones I know of is Gumtree Cars and carsales.com.au. Side note, my brother and I found our first cars on Gumtree Cars. So on both of these sites, you can find cars sold by car dealers and private sellers. So car dealers are basically people that work for a car shop or own a car shop, while private sellers are individuals trying to sell off their own personal cars. From my experience and the experience of a few others, I would advise that you choose to buy a car from a car dealer instead of a private seller. Why, you may ask? The answer is simple. Used cars bought from a car dealer are often more reliable than equivalent cars bought from private sellers because the car dealers have their integrity to protect, so they usually would keep their cars in a good condition, and they will also tell you everything you need to know about the car before you buy the car. Of course, there are always a few miscreants even among car dealers, but that's a few and far between. Buying a used car from a private seller, on the other hand, is a 50-50 chance in the sense that it could be a hit or a miss. Unfortunately, some private sellers are very dodgy. When I was going car hunting, there was this Audi A3 I saw on Gumtree Cars. It was listed by a private seller, and I vividly remember that this person put there that everything was fine with the car. So I was excited to go and see the car. It was a bit of a travel to go and see the car because at the time I was living in the northern suburbs and this car was all the way in the eastern suburbs. So my brother actually, because he had got his car before me, he actually had to take me there to see the car and all that good stuff. So on getting there, to my much surprise, the picture of the car online was not what I saw, number one. So this car had one too many dents, which were not particularly stated in the description of the car online. And also, the car drove well, which was okay, but I found that the wipers didn't work and also the radio was faulty. And these things were not stated online in the description of the car advertisement. So you see what I'm saying? Private sellers, some of them can be very dodgy. However, I would just like to clarify that I know a few people that have actually got reliable cars from private sellers. So there are always good people out there that are straightforward and are just looking to sell off their precious babies. But always have in mind that private selling of cars compared to buying a car from a dealership is a little bit risky, especially if you're not too knowledgeable about cars. So my advice would be, if you still want to go ahead and purchase a car from a private seller, what you should do is try to go with someone that is either knowledgeable about cars, or you could hire a mechanic for a few hours to follow you down to properly inspect the car before you make your final decision. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about some very important things you need to know when buying a used car. So number one on my list is mileage. Mileage basically refers to the total amount of distance a car has traveled during a specific period of time, and its unit of measurement is kilometers. Cars with lower mileage usually cost more than cars with higher mileage on their odometer. And typically you would expect that an older car would have more mileage than a newer car. And when I'm saying old and new, I'm referring to the car age, so in years. So a car that was manufactured in, say, 2005 and a car that was manufactured in 2008. So 2005 is the older car here and 2008 is the newer car. So typically you would expect that the 2005 car would have more mileage than a car that was manufactured in 2008. But that is not always the case. In some cases, a newer car might actually have more mileage on its odometer than a similar car that is older. And another thing you need to note is some miles have a greater impact on a car than other miles. For example, if a car has been subjected to mostly city driving, which involves a lot of stop and go, it is only fair to say that that car has experienced a lot of wear and tear, or significant wear and tear on its components such as the transmission and brakes, compared to a similar car which was driven by its owner mostly on the freeway or on the highway, which didn't particularly involve much stop and go. So one of the questions you need to ask when buying a car is, what traffic conditions was this car mostly subjected to? So you need to know if this car was being driven in city traffic or if it was a car that was used for longer distances, so that you know what exactly you're getting into. The second on the list is transmission, and at the moment it is safe to say that cars have two basic types of transmission systems. So there's the automatic transmission and there's the manual transmission. And there are several kinds of automatic and manual transmissions, but since this isn't an engineering class, I'm not going to bore you with the details. So what you need to know here is automatic cars are generally more expensive than manual cars. I am not sure why, so don't ask me, but that's like the norm. So if you're confident enough that you can you can successfully drive a manual transmission car, then you are better off going for that option if you are really on a tight budget. So the third thing you need to know before buying a used car is RWC. RWC simply stands for Roadworthy Certificate, and a Roadworthy Certificate is simply a document that certifies that your car is roadworthy, it is in a good condition to be driven on roads, and this roadworthy test that would result in the issuing of the roadworthy certificate is completed by a certified or an authorized roadworthy inspector. The roadworthy inspector would usually check the tires, brakes, steering, suspension, body of the car for rust and damage, the windscreen for defects, and all the lights outside of the car, and maybe also the lights inside the car. Never, ever, ever, ever buy a car that does not have a roadworthy certificate. Okay, Any car seller that is trying to sell you a car without a roadworthy certificate is trying to pull a fast one on you. I do not care what excuse they have. As long as it's a used car, they need to give you a roadworthy certificate. They might say they are busy, they don't have time, they will give you the money to go and do it. Let them provide you with a roadworthy certificate. And this is also tricky, and it also comes back to the point that I mentioned about buying a used car from a car dealer instead of a private seller, because some private sellers would actually forge a roadworthy certificate. They would actually connive with their mechanics, their amateur mechanics, if I do say so, and create roadworthy certificates that are not genuine, and they will give it to you, and you eventually end up finding out that there are actually things wrong with the car which the roadworthy certificate said was all right. So that's another issue with the private sellers. If it was a dealer, you can always go back and have a chat with them, but most likely you would not have that problem with a dealer because, like I said before, they have their integrity to protect. Number 4 is registration and transfer of ownership. Registration, in simple terms, basically means a car has a license plate which comprises of letters and numbers. It is always better to go for a car that has a license plate and a few months of its registration already paid for. This would give you one less thing to worry about from the get-go. Transfer of ownership basically means that the ownership of a property is changing hands, and property in this case simply refers to the car which you are buying. Always make sure you get a transfer of ownership document from whoever you're trying to purchase your car from. It is their responsibility to provide you with this document. Do not accept anyone that tells you that they cannot provide you with a transfer of ownership document. The possibility could be that the car is stolen and they are trying to sell it off to you. Number 5 would be reliable and affordable car brands you should consider buying. So my advice would be to buy one of these cars: a Mazda, Volkswagen, Honda, a Toyota, a Ford, or a Nissan or a Nissan, whichever pronunciation goes for you. So last but definitely not the least on my list is the age of a car. You might be wondering, what is the oldest year I should be considering when buying a used car? If you can, as a rule of thumb, and this is not set in stone of course, but if you can, try to stick to buying a car that is not more than 10 years old. So this is 2021 and 10 years would be 2011. However, if you cannot buy a car within this 10-year range, do not buy a car older than 2006. The reason for this is, the older a car is, the more issues it might tend to develop as time progresses, and you may end up spending more money fixing the car than the actual value of the car. Additionally, when you are buying a used car, it is always wise to ask the person selling the car to you to provide you with the car's service history. The car service history would basically give you an idea of how this car has been used in the past, and also an indication of how it will perform as the years progress. And as I mentioned earlier, a vehicle which has been used in stop and go traffic conditions, like in the situations of driving in the city, would most likely have more wear and tear on the transmission system and the brakes than an equivalent vehicle which was subjected to mostly highway or freeway driving conditions. Therefore, if a used car has a detailed service history, this offers you a greater advantage than a car that doesn't have that kind of service history provided, as it shows that the previous owner actually made an attempt to take care of the car. Okay fam, that's all for today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you enjoyed watching this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button. You guys are not giving me likes, so YouTube isn't pushing the videos out. And if you got to this point, thank you so much. I thank you for your dedication and for your patience to watch the video to this point. I mean, of course, you got knowledge. And also, If you know anyone that would benefit from anything I said in this video, do well to share the video with them. Don't be selfish, okay? Go ahead and share the video. If you're still not subscribed, also remember to subscribe. All right, so I will see you guys in my next video, but till then, as always, stay blessed and remember God loves you. Bye.